Food plays a big part in faith. You don't need me to remind you about the loaves and fishes and breaking of bread, manna from heaven. Food plays a big part in most religious forms, from Lent to Eid, all based around food. And as some of you may know, Jack, our producer, is a former chef. He proves it each week with his lovely recipes. So I said to Jack, please go along, do some cooking and find out more about how faith and food fits in.
Okay, so I have come to Bank Street, and there may be a familiar voice about to speak. Who have I got here?
This is Maitrisingha from the Norwich Buddhist Centre.
Maitrisingha, it's lovely to see you. We know you from obviously your Sunday meditations, don't we?
That's right, I've been doing that since the beginning of COVID, since the first lockdown.
I know lots of people really appreciate them and the time you spend doing them. But it's a beautiful building you've got here, isn't it?
It is. It's actually a Tudor building, as you can see from the outside, gloriously lit up by the sun. Originally, supposedly a Tudor gentleman's bathhouse of ill repute. I don't know what that means, but since then it's been a bank, it's been a language school, and now it's the Norwich Buddhist Centre.
Fantastic. Well, let's go inside, have a look around, and we're going to pop in the kitchen, aren't we?
We are, but we'll start in the shrine room if that's okay.
Great stuff, let's go. So, Maitrisingha, we're in the shrine room now. What does this room mean to you?
Well, this means so much to me. So we call this the Buddha room. It's our shrine room. I think of it playfully as the engine room. You know, this is really where things happen. This is where where most meditation classes happen, but also where certain rituals happen, where people officially become Buddhist. And I mean, we've been in this building since about 2003, so quite some time. And people do say meditating in this room is easier than at home. It's as if the walls have sort of imbued the atmosphere of the meditation over so many years that it has a kind of a momentum and a peace and a stillness. And I love this room. And as you can see, these old wooden oak beams. So there's a really lovely aesthetic to the room. And we're standing in front of quite a modern-looking Buddhist image. And this is the Buddha sitting in the city, or sitting in a city. So really, I think this image is communicating that we can practice this ancient tradition in modern times.
It feels very spiritual. The first thing when I walked in here, you almost get like that's how I felt when I came in. You've lit a candle. Why is that?
Well, for me, it's a candle. Candle signifies light, of course, and wisdom. So, and you know, the Buddha shone the way 2,500 years ago, and we're individually as Buddhists and collectively as a community trying to shine light on our lives, on our hearts, and trying to cultivate some wisdom to become hopefully kinder and wiser beings, because the world needs people who are trying to sort of see through their delusion and becoming kinder and becoming wiser.
And how many people will you get into this room at one time?
Oh, well, health and safety considerations mean probably not more than 40, but it depends. You know, on a meditation night, we might have about 20 or so. Festivals, more than that.
Oh wow! I imagine it's a really nice vibe when it's packed to the rafters.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's a very beautiful thing to sit in silence with a lot of people. Yes, it has the silence is very alive and vibrant, and I find it very inspiring meditating with lots of people, or just doing things. We're not always in silence, of course, but this is I think this room and this building is quite an oasis for people in the city.
It's interesting because we're slap bang in a city centre. Doesn't sound like it, does it?
No. And even on an evening when we hold our classes, we're quite near the clubland. And you can hear the sort of the distant rumblings of pubs playing music and people enjoying their drinks and things like that. But it doesn't really disturb us here. We just hear this sort of quiet murmur of the city. For me, that it brings it more alive.
I love that. I really do. So you lit the candle for wisdom. Now are you going to show me some wisdom in the kitchen?
Let's hope so.
Okay, so we are now down in the kitchen. It's quite a small kitchen, but you're going to cook up a storm by the looks of things.
Well, hopefully we both are. And as I said, we were talking about Buddhism earlier and setting the scene really in the shrine room. So I thought we'd cook a vegan meal. So very much important principle in Buddhism, a foundational principle of ethics is non-harm. So that includes not hurting others, not hurting ourselves. So for that reason, most Buddhists are vegetarian and quite a lot are vegan.
So what are you going to cook us?
So we are going to cook, Jack.
I'm not getting out of this, am I?
You're not, I'm going to have you chopping this aubergine soon. So we're going to have some fried aubergines. We're going to cook some roasted buckwheat. That's going to be our kind of grain, even though buckwheat isn't technically a grain. We are going to make hopefully a lovely cashew, mushroom and garlic sauce, and we'll embellish it with some tomatoes and spring onions.
Got a little dessert as well.
A little mousse to finish with. I've got to treat you, Jack. So what have we got here on our table? I've tried as best possible to buy organic or at least local produce. So there's some great shops around town, health food shops like Rainbow and the Greengrocers. I've used both those shops. And other local small shops as well. So we've got local strawberries, we've got local chestnut mushrooms, we've got some nuts here, various nuts. Not everything's local, don't think aubergines are. These cacao nibs, which are going to make our dessert taste very nice. Those aren't local, but as best we can, we go local. Here we've got some, what's this, Yare Valley oils, lovely local Norfolk, I think this is from Surlingham, cold pressed rapeseed oil, very, very nice to cook with, and good because it's got a fairly high burning point, so you can fry with that, which is what we'll do. So Jack, if you could chop that aubergine, and I'll do the mushrooms and prepare the buckwheat.
Great stuff, let's crack on. Fantastic. How do you want it sliced? Just into slices?
I think just centimetre slices.
Something that interests me is you said some Buddhists do eat meat, but some don't. The ones who eat meat, I guess it will have to be you would have to eat head to toe the animal, I would assume.
Well, you'd have to speak to those particular Buddhists because I've stopped eating meat. I mean, I guess if you think about it, all food on some level, but there's harm. You cut a field of barley, all the voles and the rabbits lose their homes, and there's suffering on some level. So it's just, where do you really draw the line? We've got to eat. I think the important principle really is just not to take what you're eating for granted. And this, even when you're sitting down and eating, rather than just gobbling up your dish, reflecting on all the life that's gone into, we're sharing different forms of life, and so much work has gone into it. So many people have helped bring this to our plate. So that's really how we kind of bring this sense of interconnectedness into our food. So this is roasted buckwheat. It's sometimes known as kasha or griki. You can get it in local health food shops. You can also get, it's very popular Eastern European food. So all the Eastern European shops stock this, and you just boil it for about 15 minutes. Although it's called buckwheat, it's actually not wheat at all, and I think it's nearer to a rhubarb apparently.
Oh, wow.
But it's a very hopefully you'll enjoy this. The thing about it is it's gluten-free.
Oh wow! Oh, okay, fantastic. It smells lovely already as well. Yeah, it's really nutty, isn't it? There's a real nutty earthness to it.
1 cup of buckwheat, 2 cups of water, and I'll start the mushroom sauce.
Lovely.
So I'll chop up an onion, half an onion. You've already kindly chopped up the mushrooms, and chop some garlic. Add it all together, a bit of salt and pepper, and we'll slowly kind of stew that for a little while, and then I'll add the magic cream. I've got some vegan cream that will blow your mind.
Oh wow! That's not something I've ever come across.
Well, I only kind of discovered it by accident recently.
Okay.
If you take cashews, which are quite sweet nuts,
yes,
put them in a blender. I've got one of these tall blenders. Add a little bit of water, just not to drown the cashews, but just so there's a bit of liquid there. Blend it up and you get this lovely cream that you can use as a substitute for ordinary cream. Of course you can use ordinary cream, single cream, but this, well, you'll see soon. You'll taste soon.
Fantastic.
A Buddhist recipe. They're in the midst of it there, Jack and Maitrisingha at the Norwich Buddhist Centre. And we'll rejoin them in an hour's time to find out how all that lovely food tasted. A vegan dish. And I suppose that makes up for Jack's sausage roll this morning, which I feel guilty about now. We've got the news shortly, and then it'll be vegan, mushroom and buckwheat. That's another of our recipes this week, and we're doing it in the company of Maitrisingha, who you may well know from his broadcasts from the Norwich Buddhist Centre. It's a vegan dish, and Jack Maclean has been along to the Norwich Buddhist Centre to explore the link between faith and food, and they're in the kitchen now at the Buddhist Centre, so let's find out how this recipe finishes, whether it finishes well. Back with Maitrisingha and Jack Maclean.
So the buckwheat is boiling away.
Buckwheat is boiling away, and you can smell that, the nuttiness there. Yeah, it's one of my favourite foods. I could probably eat buckwheat every single day. I wouldn't get bored.
Reminds me a little bit of quinoa by the looks of things.
Yes, it's one of those kind of alternative grains to your wheats and your barleys.
It's beautiful. It does smell stunning. Yeah. So food miles is something you look into as well?
Yeah, well, it's a consideration, isn't it? It's all that walking lightly on this earth and do your best to choose food that's locally sourced and not only is it better for you, it's better for the planet.
In go the mushrooms.
In go the mushrooms that were chopped by Jack earlier.
I do try. It's starting to come together now, isn't it? You can smell all the smells.
Yeah, that's right. And here's a little trick I learned from my mum. I don't know where she got it from. But a little bit on each aubergine, just sprinkle a little bit of paprika powder and a little bit of turmeric.
Interesting. The thing that people say about vegan food is it's not flavoursome enough, but I don't get the feeling this is going to be unflavoursome at all.
I certainly hope not. It's not my experience. I think you just have to take the initiative, use your imagination. It's quite easy to make very, very tasty and nutritious vegan food. So I think it's time for the secret cream recipe, the cashew cream.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this.
So I do a lot of this kind of thing by eye.
That's fair enough.
So this is one of those tools, kind of smoothie makers, kitchen mixers. I'll just put in a couple of handfuls of cashews. That's all you need, and then add some water to that.
They're not roasted cashews.
No, they're just raw cashew nuts. But these are actually broken cashews, but it doesn't matter. They're going to be
even more broken very soon.
But we will add some of the pieces into the mix as well to give that nice cashew crunch. Are you ready?
Let's go.
So as you can see, we've got a nice cream there.
It's incredibly thick. That's incredible, that is.
Just get a spoon, and I'd like you to... I'm going to spoon feed you.
Lovely.
There you go.
Oh, wow. That is gorgeous. And it's really creamy.
It's really creamy, and it gives that kind of sweet, creamy effect that's lovely with mushrooms.
Yes, most definitely. Oh, that is stunning. That just looks like a creamy mushroom sauce, doesn't it? And it's exactly what it is.
That is exactly what it is.
Now, the mousse, a vegan mousse, is something that it's an interesting concept.
Yes, well, prepare yourself, Jack. Prepare yourself. So what we do is dates are a great sweetener. About 10 dates. Chuck that in the mixer, and half a handful of oats. Now, do you know what these are? Raw cacao nibs.
I've heard of them, but I can't say I've ever used them.
So this is chocolate before it gets processed into cocoa.
Oh wow!
So it's got it's way more nutritious, but it's still got that lovely bitterness. So I just put that in there because I like my chocolate, and some hazelnuts, and just some sunflower seeds. I'm just doing this all by eye. And
that's the best way.
That's the best way. Then we add some water. you go. Pinch of salt.
Salt in a sweet dessert?
Yes. Indeed. Onto the mixer.
And now this mousse.
Look at this.
It's chocolate coloured.
Chocolate coloured.
It's thick.
Pour it into these containers. And also add some strawberries. And you could, if you wanted, embellish that with a few sprigs of mint.
Wonderful stuff. It does look incredible.
You can't have your dessert until you eat your main.
Of course. My mother would be ashamed otherwise.
So these are just the tomatoes that Jack chopped up earlier. A little bit of oil, salt and pepper, and spring onions for colour and flavour.
Just nice and fresh, especially an organic tomato as well. You can't really beat it, can you?
No, you can't.
Dolloping of the mushroom sauce as well. Lovely.
Sit down and enjoy the food.
Fantastic. Final touch.
The aubergines.
The aubergines. Wonderful. So as this is a faith series, what would a Buddhist do before the meal? Is there anything that in particular we would do before?
Well, you could do, certainly in Buddhism, it's important to set intentions and just be clear what we are doing. So, what are we doing? We've got food here, we're sharing various forms of life. Let us be grateful for that. Let us be at least aware, let us not take it for granted. All the effort that's gone in, not just the two of us working in the kitchen, but all this food has been grown, it's been transported, it's been shelved in the shops. So it's important just to bear that in mind and try to take things not so much for granted and just really develop and cultivate an appreciation and a gratitude. So that's the first thing. And second thing is, well, let's enjoy it. It's so easy to be distracted. Our minds are often so all over the place. That monkey mind has so many agendas. So we can just set the intention to just enjoy every mouthful and enjoy the food mindfully.
That sounds fantastic to me. Let's dig in. What made you become a Buddhist?
Well, I've been a Buddhist for over 20 years now. Quite a long time ago, I was quite unhappy, really. Felt quite lost. Didn't really have a purpose in my life and didn't really know what it was all about. I was depressed and anxious, and somebody suggested that meditation might help with those things. At first, I wasn't interested in Buddhism at all. I just thought, keep my distance from religion, whatever that is, but give me the meditation, yes please. I knew that would do me good, and I started to practice it, and then I just slowly started to incorporate more and more Buddhist principles, particularly the principle of non-harm, and trying to reflect more on my life, really, what I do, my thoughts, my words, my actions, and realizing that at some point what happened was I realized, oh, I'm already a Buddhist. So it wasn't a question of should I become a Buddhist or not. I realized I'd just sort of taken on these practices, and at some point it occurred to me, well, that is what a Buddhist is. It's somebody who takes on these practices and who believes that it's possible for us to grow as human beings, for our hearts to open, for our minds to open, become kinder and wiser. Oh, I'm already doing that, was what occurred to me. And so I'd say from that point I became a Buddhist. I had an official, we had a ceremony here at the Buddhist Centre with some other people who were also becoming Buddhists at the time. That was, I think, in 2003.
Oh, wow. 20 years this year then?
20 years this year.
Wow. Incredible journey.
Yes, and I don't regret a minute of it.
Right, well, you've given me a spoon. I can't not dig in. Oh, wow. It's got the moussey consistency, hasn't it?
It's got everything. And can you taste a kind of slightly fermented, almost alcoholic sort of taste that comes from those cacao nibs?
They're doing it by eye. That must be incredibly freeing, and I feel that is almost quite Buddhist. Do you know what I mean? It's a free moving movement.
Yes, I think. Well, do you know what? Maybe it's not so. Buddhism isn't thought of in these terms so much, but I think there's definitely a very important. There's a playful aspect to Buddhism, and I think the more we're wanting to free our minds and our hearts, and we can in that way become more playful. So just bringing playfulness to what you do. So, in discussion with people, let it be playful. I mean, I don't mean not taking people seriously, but allow there to be a lightness and a fun and a joy. Life is so short. Why take it so seriously? And certainly in the kitchen, it's good to be playful and experiment.
And that's definitely what you've done here. And you've come up with an absolute winner, it has to be said. I'm going to enjoy the end of this. Thank you so much for joining me with this, Maitrisingha.
You're very welcome, Jack. Thank you.
And we will get the dishes done shortly.
I'll do that, no problem.
Oh, well, there we go. Lovely.
There's something to be said, isn't there, for this Buddhism? They volunteer to do the dishes. Wonderful. No, Maitrisingha, to be absolutely serious, he's been a terrific asset to this programme, and his final meditation will be next week at 9:15. And thank you, Maitrisingha, for allowing us access to the kitchens at the Norwich Buddhist Centre.